Could you address what coursework a risk adjustment HCC coder needs that is different than what was needed for the CPC? You don't have to be a certified CPC coder to do risk adjustment work. That's probably preferred because they want to know that you're familiar. It's a detailed work, but you can get the CRC without being a CPC, right? And you can be I would suggest that somebody get the CPC and then go in and get the CRC. Unless you have a lot of experience with risk adjustment and HCC work, then just go get your CRC. And there's a lot of people out there that have been working in this field for a long time that aren't CPCs or have other certifications, and you could just go take the CRC. The CPC coder deals with CPT and procedural codes, whereas a certified risk adjustment coder does not assign CPT codes. This is not to say that you don't need to understand procedures, because you do need to understand procedures. They look at procedures for a different reason than somebody that is working in physician or inpatient work. So let's talk about the CPC first. You assign, again, ICD and CPT codes. You read documentation to assign codes case by case. You're familiar with various payer requirements for optimal reimbursement, right? And because they're quirky, you know, what Medicare wants and what Blue Cross Blue Shield wants isn't necessarily what UHC wants. Understand the statistical importance of proper reporting, and I'm that don't forget the reason that we code is primarily for statistical purposes. It just happens to be a really great way to get paid, and of course, since money's involved, the payment and reimbursement is usually what's talked about the most. Codes individual cases for multiple patients for each date of service. So in other words, if you're coding for all the things that came in on a Thursday, and you're coding all of that out on Friday, you're coding several different patients that, you know, maybe the facility or the doctor's office that you saw, you know, saw 100 patients between doctors, and you're coding all of those. It's different for the CRC. What the CRC does is they assign ICD codes for chronic conditions which impact HCC category assignments. Okay, and they read multiple forms of documentation for an individual patient encompassing a year of treatment by all approved face-to-face providers, links chronic conditions with chronic treatment. So in other words, you may, over here, a CPC may see code for 100 patients in a day, but a CRC, if they're working for an MA plan, would code 5 patients with a year's worth of documentation for each one, and not just for one provider, for everybody that they saw in that year time period. It could be consultations, it could be specialists, then it could be inpatient work, it can be all of this information, and not just the one doctor that you're used to coding for. So that's a little bit different. You have to be familiar with various risk assessment requirements for optimal reimbursement specific to Medicare Advantage plans. So those are MA plans, and certain Medicaid plans. The Affordable Care Act or the ACA marketplace plans are all involved in this. So again, it's a lot of work with government, and wherever government's involved, there's usually less money, right? And so the auditors are very particular because you don't want to make a mistake. They'll come in and take that money. Understand the statistical importance of proper reporting, and codes all encounters from a specific time period, anywhere from a quarter to a year or more for a single patient. So real quick, the skills of a CRC have a different focus than a CPC. They're a little bit the same and a little bit different. One does not have to be a CPC to be a CRC. However, having a CPC would give an individual the advantage of already proven skills. Very important. And that just simply need to be developed for this specialty. And areas of further development and refinement would include chronic conditions, advanced knowledge of anatomy and physiology of the disease process, active treatment for diseases, hierarchical condition category classifications, and trumping. I always love saying trumping. Payment methodologies. You got to know about MA plans, Medicare Chronic Illness and Disability Payment Systems, which is abbreviated CDPS, and the ACA Marketplace plans and carrier guidelines. And last, auditing. There's RADV audit processes. This is retrospective and prospective auditing. As a coder, you have to embrace auditing and being audited, and as a CRC, know that you're usually a 98% accuracy is what they're looking for. They're looking for quality versus quantity in this area. You have to have both. A real quick, let's see, educate, identify documentation insufficiencies, and communication skills. Communicate documentation insufficiencies as well as carrier requirements. This is so, I don't want to say it's so, so stinking fun. I'm telling you guys, it's a lot of fun.
There was a question in the chat.
Oh, okay.
They said, is HCC coding just for insurance companies or an outpatient, or can an outpatient office code HCCs as well?
Okay, well, honestly, what you need to know is that there's so many avenues for a risk adjustment HCC coder. You have MA plans that do the coding, so that is usually you'll see another company contract a company to code for them, and we're talking about massive numbers, like thousands and thousands and thousands of people, individuals that are coming through to be coded. Okay, now for a physician's office or outpatient facility and stuff, and inpatient, you will find that they are prepping, making sure that all of their ducks are in a row before this stuff is given to the MA plans. Because what happens is that when it goes to the MA plan and does the coding, like what I did with Optum, is that anything that isn't copacetic or is has any error or omission on it gets bounced back, and there's a delay, and so the delay is money. And so if everything is prepped and ready to go ahead of time, and you're really looking for these disease processes, the CRCs are skilled at making sure the documentation is what it needs to be to show that these chronic conditions are captured at the highest specificity. That's a problem, with linking with links to so that they're currently and actively being treated. So again, you're going to see HCC or CRC coders in every avenue. I know that hospitals in St. Louis are hiring and having, next to their coding department, they have literally a risk adjustment HCC department that they're adding, that will have 5, 6 to 10 coders just doing risk adjustment so that they're ready. So I hope that answered your question. Little shout out to our new project manager, Chandra, because she helped me fine tune this to go along with all of this great stuff, that meaty stuff I told you about that's being added to the course. And last thing I wanted to say before I turn it over to Laureen and her slides is that a huge part of what a CRC will do is anatomy and physiology of the disease process. And so if you like that aspect, which as you know I do, this is definitely a certification and career niche that you might want to get into, because that is critical to stay on top of diseases and what happens in the disease process, to really get to high specificities and be a good CRC.
Do you need more medical certification training? Go to www.cco.us. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for updates.